Looking at this chart, you can see the sheer scale of Russia's pre-war energy output. Every single day, they were exporting roughly 2.5 million barrels of crude oil, alongside another 1.5 million barrels of refined petroleum products. That massive flow of liquid energy directly funds their military operations. Historically, that vital infrastructure was protected by one of Russia's greatest natural defenses: sheer geographic distance. The vast expanse of the country kept these energy arteries far out of reach from sustained military threats. But over the last 10 weeks, that distance has evaporated. Ukraine has launched a series of heavily modified drone systems capable of flying up to 1,800 kilometers. As this map shows, that range pushes well past Moscow, sweeping to the Ural Mountains. Carrying heavy warheads, they bypass the front line to strike ports, pumping stations, and refineries, deeply embedded inside this new danger zone. The initial explosion is only the beginning of the problem. The long-term consequence of these strikes is a mechanical failure that begins the moment the oil stops moving through the system. To understand how Ukraine is pulling this off, we have to look at their rapidly expanding industrial base. A massive influx of capital from European and Middle Eastern countries is currently funding dozens of Ukrainian drone startups, giving them the cash to build out manufacturing plants everywhere. This surge in capital has quintupled the number of daily drone strikes in just 10 weeks. Ukraine is now moving into a phase where they can launch dozens, if not hundreds, of these systems across Russia every single day. This sustained campaign is testing the limits of Russia's oil infrastructure, which operates as a two-tier system. The first tier consists of older oil fields down in the southern provinces. These southern locations produce about 1 to 1.2 million barrels a day. To extract the petroleum, they rely heavily on a water injection method, pumping water down into the earth to increase well pressure so the oil rises to the surface. Because they use this specific water-based mechanism, a direct hit to a southern facility is rarely fatal to the entire field. The operators can safely halt production, repair the damage, and restart the flow later with minimal permanent consequences. But the vast majority of Russia's petroleum wealth does not come from those southern fields. It sits far to the north, trapped beneath the extreme, unforgiving landscape of the Siberian permafrost. Extracting oil from frozen earth requires a thermodynamic balance. The hot, flowing oil continuously radiates heat outward, keeping the surrounding earth warm. But if a drone strike stops that liquid flow, the vital radiant heat vanishes, allowing the sub-zero permafrost to rapidly close in. Without that constant thermal energy, the natural waxes inherently present in the crude oil undergo a chemical shift. The heavy liquid rapidly cools, thickening into a dense, solid blockage that seals the pipe from the inside. At the exact same time, the sudden drop in temperature causes the steel pipelines, the subterranean wellbores, and the pumping stations to contract and crack apart under the pressure of the freezing earth. Because of this thermodynamic reality, a permafrost well cannot be paused while repairs are made. The moment the flow is interrupted, the physical infrastructure destroys itself from the inside out. We have a historical precedent for what happens when a system like this goes offline. The last time Russia's permafrost oil network experienced a widespread shutdown was during the economic collapse of the Soviet Union. After that stop, it took the Russians 20 years to thaw out those frozen fields, rebuild the cracked infrastructure, and fully restore their petroleum export capacity to its previous levels. Today, they're facing that same threat at an accelerated pace. Over 80 discrete energy targets across Russia have come under sustained, repeated drone attacks, with some key nodes getting hit several times a week. Russian oil officials are already reporting forced shut-ins of wells in regions like Tatarstan and Bashkortostan. Further north, there are reports of wells that may never be able to restart at all. This line chart tracks the cumulative damage over just the last 10 weeks. When you combine the disabled ports, the broken pipelines, and the shattered pumping stations, we are looking at an overall capacity reduction of 1.5 to 2.5 million barrels per day. As Ukraine's drone production continues to scale through the summer, they will have the numbers and the range to systematically disable the remaining targets across the country. Ukraine is targeting a specific engineering vulnerability that the Russian energy sector is not designed to survive. If this rate of strikes continues, Russia faces a rebuilding process that has